It's a beautiful, crisp, cool day out. Mi mano derecha just bought me a couple of McDonald's fish sandwiches. My blood pressure was good. I've had my coffee for the morning. So life is good. I just got done praying for you all. Hey, Lily. I just got done praying for you all. That God would prosper you physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially. A lot is going on. And today's topic is 1 Corinthians. And again, I offer an apology to Leanne Trubiates because Leanne saw in my channel where it was going. And she was like, Pop, don't do the silly videos anymore. And rather than explaining to her, about YouTube requiring a certain amount of views and watch time and all of that other stuff, I just kind of rebuffed her. And like I said, she saw the potential for the channel even before I did, because my channel went from being a digital diary of my B-movie life to what it is now, a channel where I stop and pray for people and we address things as we go along with the real deal of life. And we all know that the world is sitting on the brink of WW3. Even the Pope is saying that. So time for silliness is over and done with. For you young people that say, well, you were hoping to have a family and a car and a house and all that other stuff. What God has in mind for us in his kingdom is so much better that I urge you, give your life over while you're young instead of doing like me and marching past all of these signs and people who tried to help me, because I was so used to fighting life on my own is what the deal was. Ever since a young kid, I always had to struggle, and I never ever learned to turn my life over to God. And now I'm in a position where I have no other choice. Flat on my back. And I redeemed the time by scooping my legs into my wheelchair and praying for everybody. And really, nothing could be better. There's no better way to spend the time. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful to God for every day. But if you've been watching my channel for the past couple of days, I had a channel that I was watching, and the guy's really handsome and dynamic, and he does a situation report on world events in the Middle East and all this other stuff. And he's very I don't know if I would say aggrandizing, but he's very self-aware. And he's always talking about how he helps people clear their lots with his bulldozer, and he gives you the news that's going on from kind of a military perspective. And he mixes in his relationship to Yah. So the other day I was talking to him during his live stream, and I was like, well, I've heard of Yahweh, but you're saying Yah. And he blustered. He said, well, I have 3 videos, my manifesto on why Judaism and Christianity is wrong, and Jews and Christians are either cursed or damned. I mean, you'd have to watch his video. I was so shocked because it totally blew my paradigm of who I thought this man was. I never assumed that he was a real godly man because of his language and vulgarity and stuff like that. But I figured that he was one of those, real men and rough and tough and tumble and had been through the wine press of life like I had, and that we were kindred spirits, but nothing could be further from the truth. So again, very respectfully, I typed, are you a Christian or are you a Messianic Jew? Because you're talking about Yah. And most Messianic Jews, they'll say Yahweh or Yeshua HaMashiach, So that was what I was expecting to hear, but got neither of those. And he said, getting back to my videos, if you watch the 3 videos, and he called me a dumbass. If you just watch my videos, well, I'm not going to watch 3 videos on a false religion. I'm sorry. So I asked him, and see, this is the crux of the matter. When you come across somebody who's demon possessed or mean spirited, and you ask them, have you been born again? And you ask them the Jesus question, then they'll blow up. I mean, I've been out on the street doing street ministry, and you ask people about Jesus, and they'll almost claw your face off. And that's the way this guy was. And he was like, no, I haven't been born again. No, I haven't been born again. I don't need to be born again. So obviously he's not a Christian, and he thinks that his works are going to work their way into heaven. So at that point, it's not worth discussing anything with the guy. I was really upset and shocked, disappointed, because I had the person up on a pillar. I was like, that's the way to be, to be a real Christian and a real man with a tattoo. I always kept from getting a tattoo or an earring or anything, because in the Bible it says don't make any modifications to the body that the good Lord gave you. But in any case, it says in 1 Corinthians, though I speak with the voice of men and angels, but hath not charity and love, my words are just sounding brass and tinkling. So, and fam, speaking of tinkling, if any of you want to help old Pop out with diapers or old people piddle pads, I'm really low on the old people piddle pads, so it would be much appreciated if you go to my Amazon link and help me out with some old people piddle pads. But I was always very physically fit and everything. I used to be a recycler runner on a recycle truck, and then I got mushed by the truck. And then as I was recuperating, this young man snuck up behind me and punched me in the spine because he said he didn't like gringos. And I was merciful to him. And I can tell you, I've never had anything so painful in my life as that karate chop that he gave me to the spine. I'm talking about car accidents and having my finger cut off that time. Didn't come close to this guy sneaking up on me and almost cracking my spine in half with this karate chop. And that's been 5 years ago that I've been prisoner in my room and had to wear diapers like a 2-year-old baby. And believe me, it's very expensive. The diapers and the pillow pads and mattress covers and all that other stuff is very expensive. It runs me about $200 to $300 a month. And on top of that, my benefits got cut $294. My rent went up $200. So yesterday was a day of rice and beans, and I'm grateful to have that. And then mi mano derecha, Raj, this morning got me this beautiful frosty chocolate shake and 2 filet of fish sandwiches right off the griddle at McDonald's. And man, they were hot and they were well done. The Laurel, Maryland McDonald's crew does a good job at both stores, the All Saints Road store and the Washington Boulevard store. They both do a good job. Amazon delivery does a great job in North Laurel. So does UPS. The only 2 holdouts are the U.S. Postal Service and FedEx. So the FedEx guy stands back about, I'd say like 50 feet and chucks the package at the door. I always know it's FedEx because it sounds like a SWAT team is trying to knock the door down when FedEx delivers. But he just, he comes by and throws the package and it rams against the door and then he's off. It reminds me of when my mother used to take me to the airport, and she always had this vision of flying away because she was an egghead and a very scholarly lady. And she didn't know that she was going to have 9 kids and be standing at a sink of dirty dishes. She worked for the Smithsonian as a young lady. She was one of the first to work on automotive oil filters on that problem. And they suggested diatomaceous earth, of moving the oil through diatomaceous earth. And my mother was the one that suggested a folded paper filter. She never got credit. She never got credit for it. But every time you put an oil filter on your car, I just want you to know my mother was the one who originally worked on that, on solving that problem of filtering the engine oil in cars so that it would last longer. Smithsonian did a lot of things. They had geographical, information that they were compiling. They were like the scientific community of the day, and things that didn't quite jive with the stuff that they're teaching now about a fish becomes a bird, becomes a monkey, becomes a man. If it didn't quite jive, they kind of like lost whatever it was that didn't go with the narrative. I guess kind of locked it away into a room where it would never be looked up again, that kind of deal. But my mother always went to work and kept her mouth shut. And my father, my father worked at Heckinger's uh, lumber yards and hardware stores, and ran into my mother, and he liked the way she looked. They didn't know each other, and he told my mother, he said, "I'm coming back Saturday to marry you." That was his pickup line. "I'm coming back Saturday to marry you." And my mother was living with her a very aggressive, very butch lesbian sister and very grumpy mother. My grandmother always threatened to like shove a cane up your butt if you looked at her the wrong way. And both women hated men. My grandmother and the husband didn't get along. He passed away at 39 years old. He was a butcher or something, and he went in and out of the freezers, I guess putting meat in the freezer. And on a hot summer day, he had a heart attack because of the difference of going cold, hot, that kind of thing. So he passed away very early. My aunt hated my father, snuck up behind him and kicked him. So the relationship between all of them was never very good. My mother wanted to just get out of it. She went from the frying pan into the fire, marrying my father. But in any case, my father said, "I'm coming by Saturday. We're going to get married." My mother looked up and she said, "Well, that's okay. I'm not doing anything Saturday." To somebody you barely know. But she was like, "That'll get me out of the house." And my father was a romantic. He planted these crocuses in the front lawn that when they popped up, they would spell "I love you." And as a matter of fact, as a kid, that was one of the things that got me in hot water with my father, because when the crocus leaves started to pop up in the lawn, I thought they were weeds. The flower hadn't popped up yet, but the leaves had. So I thought they were weeds. And I put the lawnmower on a very low setting, and I cut the grass and I mowed down the crocuses, which would have popped up and spelled "I love you" to my mother. It was a surprise. And believe me, by the time my father got through with me, it was a surprise. But he didn't want to tell me because he figured I would blab to my mother. So I never knew that there was anything planted in the lawn that was supposed to come up and spell anything. And believe me, I got excoriated for cutting those crocuses down. But in any case, getting back to the purpose of this video, 1 Corinthians is people who spout off, and say that they have a form of godliness, but they deny the power thereof. And like this man I was telling you about, you have to, when you're traveling life's journey and you decide to be born again, you can't make any assumptions about the other person. And that's what I did in this case. I assumed this person was a godly man because he had a form of religiosity, and nothing could be further from the truth. And then after he called me a dumbass, he puts his head in his hands and he prays a prayer about me, to Yah, whoever the God Yah is. And he's like the the rich merchant or whatever that went into the temple and praised at the altar and said, I thank you, God, that I'm not like these money changers and beggars and all of that. It's a story of the Bible about the old woman who had the 2 pennies, and she puts the 2 cents in. And Jesus is like, well, this woman, gave far more than the rich man because she gave of all she had. And so 2 pennies would have been her bread allowance, to keep herself alive. So she gave to the uttermost, and the other person gave out of his abundance. And then he prayed a very patronizing prayer that he was glad that he wasn't like the other guy, which is what this guy did. He puts his head in his hands like, oh, this poor dumbass, and he's going to witness to me about his God after calling me dumbass. It's like being at a Thanksgiving dinner and, you're praising your guest, your hostess, and you say, well, everything was great, but the turkey was dry. And so the hostess is thinking, yeah, I slaved for hours over the stove, and you're like, everything's great, but the turkey was dry. Yeah, that kind of thing. And the mind sticks on the but. Everything was great, but the turkey was dry. So that's the way I was with this guy. At that point, he lost me because, like I said, it was a live stream and he was talking directly to me for a few moments. And my mind was stuck back at dumbass. So everything else he said to justify himself went right over my head. And like I said, no, I'm not going to watch his 3 video manifestos on why he's right and how everybody who's a Jew or a Christian is wrong and on their way to hell. He said damned or cursed. So I'm assuming damned or cursed means on your way to hell, since we're talking about Bible things. But in any case, like I said, he lost me as a subscriber, and he lost me as somebody who was going to give him any kind of, tacit interest or anything like that because of the way he came at me. But like I said, fam, your soul is your most precious belonging. And it's not a good idea to leave your soul's salvation in anybody's hands or to make an assumption that there's some sort of great spiritual leader and guru that's going to guide you to the righteous path. So I believe the old expression that any person you put on a pedestal is at some point going to disappoint you. So I brought it on myself, and I'm just going to go forth in trying to learn more about the one true and living God and being in fellowship with him, because the word says, beloved, I wish above all things that you may as prosper even as your soul prospers. And you do that by reading God's word, staying in prayer, and asking God for guidance. So essentially, it's being a Berean Christian, which is what I recommend to everybody. If you hear a good message, that's fine, but get out your King James Bible, what they call up in the hills, the real Bible. And see, it is the real deal because other translations, for example, call Mary a maiden, but they took out the word virgin. And they said that Jesus is the capstone, which is not true at all. Jesus is the cornerstone of the foundation down at the bottom. The devil is the capstone, like you see on the back of a dollar bill. Jesus is not the capstone. So I got to go. When I talk for too long, my oxygen level keeps going lower and lower and lower. So I have to check my oxygen and either supplement it or do some yoga breathing. I don't ever suggest yoga, but I do the breathing to get my blood oxygen to go back up to where a normal person should be anyway. But I'm still grateful that even though I'm the better part of a century old, I can still function. I did pray for you all. I have been faithful. I ask that if you're a regular watcher of my channel, that you like and subscribe in order to keep the YouTube police off my back. And again, I love you. I hope you have a wonderful day. Pop out.